Hi, my name is Kwok Ng. I'm the International Federation of Adapted Physical Activity, that's IFAPA, the European representative. I'm also a member of the WHO Collaborative Cross-National Health Behaviour in School-Aged Children study, that's the HPSC study, and I've been asked to talk about the Washington Group questions. So first of all, perhaps I'll give you a bit of a background. When I first encountered the HPSC, I was interested to make comparisons between different countries on physical activity and the adolescents with disabilities. However, it was found incredibly difficult to find a decent measure of disability. So I came across the question of what was the purpose of measuring disabilities? Was it to measure it for insurance purposes? Was it a measure for the medically driven types of disability, or was it for the societal measure of disabilities? I also wanted to find out I had to ask myself, what were the goals in actually doing so? And for me, for this study, was actually to report disability and physical activity. And so how was I going to do this? Well, I had to look at a ton of different measures, and the ones that were currently used under HP were, generally speaking, a medically driven item. So I delved into literature and started to look at ways of measuring disabilities through a framework called the International Classification of Functioning Disability and Health. And as a result of that, I found and stumbled across the Washington Group. And so it was, from my understanding, it was designed for population statistics as a questionnaire through proxy. So in other words, every 10 years at least around the whole world there will be a census that would be asking about what is the population and what are the demographics of the population. And in some countries they started to ask about certain questions related to disabilities. However, they weren't comparable between the different countries, so there will be different prevalence rates across the different countries, as well as the definition of disabilities would be quite different. So the Washington Group was formed after the ICF was created, and he started to work on a set of questions that would be universal across all those countries that would conduct censuses. And as a result, these questions have been expanded to also answer for questions to provide questions for children, and they worked with UNICEF through this multi-indicator cluster survey for developing countries. So I thought, great, that's the set of questions that we want to use. Now, interestingly, the Washington Group question themes, they started off with 6 items designed for adults, and then through working with UNICEF we found out that they discovered other domains that were of interest for children. So for example, what's outside of the adult Washington Group questions were domains such as self-care, emotion, behaviour, attention and coping with change. And it's these types of questions that we'll be really interested in with adolescents. So in 2014, the Finnish HPSC study looked at different types of functions that matched the Washington Group themes. And as a result of that, we managed to fit the majority of the themes that were considered important under the Washington Group. The data has been published with regards to physical activity, and it was broken down into questions with regards to seeing things, hearing things, speaking to others, moving around, remembering things, concentrating, sitting still was a modified item that we decided to use for behaviour. Absences from schools we also have, and thought that might be a proxy with regards to self-care rather than dressing yourself, and then the need for helping the others. The problem with this is that it doesn't actually match exactly with the Washington Group themes, so it brought us back to the same issue with regards to the comparison dilemma across the different countries. So given that UNICEF published a paper and the Washington Group had advanced their study, they decided to generate a set of questions that could then be used around for measuring disabilities. So here we have the modern version, and we've also updated them a little bit because we're now using them for self-reported measures. Now this is important because we want to hear the voice of the child rather than the proxy and the reporting from the parents or from the teachers. Now it's of course parents tend to overrate the level of difficulties or disabilities that children have, whereas the children are in that lived experience state and they've got to have their voice. So we've modified these questions to define it in that way that matches the ones that UNICEF have identified as what is now called the Child Functioning Module. So with that, I'd like to end this little video log with regards to how Washington Group has made an impact on my research, and I'm hoping that it would inspire other people to also use similar measures so we can get just as useful and important information about children with disabilities and with regards to physical activity. Okay. For further information, please do contact me on kwok.ng@hbse.org.